One, and go. Roll the footage. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Strategy Show. This is your host, Simon Severino. I'm so pumped to have you here. We have some great CEO tips today about how to grow your business via referrals, via networking. And we have here in the house, founder of BNI, an organization for growing your business, which has over 9,500 chapters around the globe. The person we have here is a New York Times best-selling author of 24 books. He has been called the father of modern networking by CNN. Hello, everybody, Dr. Ivan Misner.
Hello, Simon. Very nice to talk to you.
Super to have you here, Ivan. We will unpack how to create useful networks. But first, what are you currently creating?
So I'm presently working on a book called Infinite Giving, and it's about the 7 laws of giver's gain, which is the philosophy. It's really the principal core value of BNI. And so I hope to have that book finished real soon here.
Beautiful. So tell us a little bit about BNI. What is it? Where is it?
So BNI is a business and professional networking organization. We allow one person per profession to join a group. We presently have 9,600 groups in more than 70 countries around the world. Now, up until the COVID virus, we literally met in person every week. So we would have 9,600 in-person meetings. Today, because of COVID, all of our groups are meeting online. We do plan on transitioning back to in-person meetings. But so we did a really fast pivot and moved all 9,600 groups to an online platform. The primary purpose for BNI is to pass each other referrals. So our members get together to know one another, trust one another, and refer one another. Last year, we passed 12.3 million referrals and generated for our members 16.7 billion with a B, $16.7 billion worth of business for each other. So it's a way for small businesses to build their business.
Billion. And yeah. How do you structure the group? So one person from different industries, or yes. How do you?
It's one person per professional category. So you might sometimes get more than one. You might get a residential real estate agent and a commercial real estate agent, or you might get attorneys who specialize in different areas. But it's one person per professional category, so you don't have anyone who directly competes with your expertise in a group.
And do they all trust each other and send each other, or how does it work if somebody has not a great product or something like that? Did you have that?
Well, so we first of all, most members are referred into BNI, so they're invited into BNI. Then we have a membership committee that reviews all applicants. So just because somebody applies doesn't mean they're going to be accepted. And then if we have problems, if there's a person that is not doing a good job, we have a membership committee in the chapter, and the membership committee can open someone's classification, can say, look, you're not doing the quality work that we want. And so someone can be removed. But when you sit across a table every week and have to look someone in the eye, there's no place to hide. So you better do a good job, or you're going to get removed from the group. And so we don't have a problem generally, but when we do, the membership committee is empowered to remove people.
Strong.
And it takes time, by the way. We tell people this is not a get-rich-quick scheme. This is a marathon, not a sprint. And so it's something that you're building over time, and you have to build relationships. Networking is more about farming than it is about hunting. It's about cultivating relationships with people. And so when you cultivate those relationships, you develop trust.
Beautiful. Now, I like the way you started your business because you didn't start out by mapping this out. This is my idea. I'm going to do this. You were a high ticket consultant, a business management consultant, doing really well there. But your friends started asking you about that.
Yeah, well, actually, I got most of my business through referrals and speaking engagements, and so I wanted to form one group, not 9,000 groups, just one. And before I started BNI, I went to a lot of networking groups that were they were mercenary. Everyone was trying to sell to me when I went to them, and I'd leave feeling like I'd been slimed and I needed to go home and get a shower because everyone was selling to me. Then I went to these other groups it was all happy hour and hors d'oeuvres. It was very social, and there was no business being done. I didn't like either of those groups. I wanted to take the concept of doing business, but not being transactional, and the concept of building relationships, but not being totally social, and merge them together. And the glue that would hold it together is our principal core value of giver's gain. This idea that if I help you, you'll help me, we'll all do better as a result of it. And that's what I did. And people started asking me to open up a second group and a third group and a fourth group. And at first I said no to them because, I was a business consultant, but they talked me into it. And after about a year, we had 20 groups. And it was at that point that I sat down and created the plan to scale the business and make it much larger.
What happened from there? So you said, okay, I have to accept it. This is this big wave that I'm going to ride now. I'm stopping everything else. What happened then?
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Was that it hit me in December of 1985. It's kind of the Brody moment. Do you remember in Jaws where Brody says you're going to need a bigger boat? It was sort of my Brody moment where I'm like, I'm going to need a bigger boat. This is much, much bigger than I thought it would be, because I struck a chord in the business community that I didn't anticipate. I knew I needed referrals, but I didn't realize everyone needed referrals. And the problem is we don't teach this in colleges and universities anywhere in the world. We don't teach networking, emotional intelligence, social capital. And it was at that point that I said, okay, this is, I struck a chord I didn't expect. And I created my plan to scale the company, the kinds of things that I needed to do in order to scale the company. And we were off to the races the next year. I still had my consulting business, but I gradually, it just took over my consulting business. By 1989, I sold my consulting business.
And what did you learn in this scaling phase? So you had to get that bigger boat.
Yeah.
What did you learn about that? What would you maybe do differently now?
Well, hindsight's always 20/20. There's many things that you might do differently over time. I think let's start with the things I did right. I realized that I needed to write everything down. I had to create systems and processes so that I could teach people, because teaching staff is a leaky bucket process. If you teach me something, some of the information leaks out. And then when I teach someone else, more information leaks out. And when they teach someone else, you have a half a bucket of information. And then what happens is when it doesn't look complete, people start throwing their own stuff in. And when they start throwing their own stuff in, you don't have what you created. And so by creating systems and processes and writing them down and training people, you reduced the leaky bucket syndrome by having it all in writing. So that was my first step, was to try and get everything in writing so that people knew what to do and how to do it. I basically created an industry because there was never any system or organization to this. And by creating that system and organization, it helped scale it. Then I had to find the right people, searching for the right people. One of the things I learned early on is that ignorance on fire is better than knowledge on ice. People who were just on fire, they were excited and they were willing to learn. Those people were easier to work with than the people who had a lot of knowledge, but they weren't on fire. They weren't excited. And so I learned early on, find those people that are excited, that there's a fire in their belly and they want to, they really want to do something, and bring those into your organization. those were a couple of the things that I learned along the way.
Beautiful. And on the other side, what would you do differently now looking back?
Well, I think one of the biggest mistakes I made, and this was years into BNI, was on technology. I went, in the 2000s, when computer programs and that were really becoming more active, particularly web-based systems. I watched as multiple locations around the world started creating their own database systems. And I thought, okay, I'll let the cream rise. Wherever the best programs will obviously come to the top, and those will be the ones then that we will use globally. Huge mistake. Huge mistake. Because what happened was all of these different programs existed in the company. We were not running on one system. We were running on like 8 systems. And one did not rise to the top globally. Instead, what we created were silos where each one of them, no, my program's best, not theirs. And everyone would fight for their system. And that was a huge mistake because I had to pry their hands away from their program and create one system that everybody went to. And that took several years to transition the company to agree to go on one program, which we had to create from scratch. It would have been easier to just do it 5 years earlier rather than wait for something to rise. If I had to do it over again, I'd do that one differently.
Strong. Who should apply for a BNI seat?
Yeah, anyone who's looking to increase their business through referrals, or if if you're a senior manager, you want your sales management team to be in a network. BNI is what I call a strong contact network, where we allow one person per profession, and you should have them very active in a network like BNI. So, if you're looking to drum up business yourself, or if you have a sales department that's looking to drum up business, those are the people who need to be in. But you need to get people in who recognize that it's a big commitment. It is. You don't just show up and referrals drop into your lap. You have to build relationships with people, and that takes time and it takes commitment, and you have to be willing to give people the time necessary to build those relationships.
What's the difference? They just go out on LinkedIn and they try to build their network there, or
yeah.
Otherwise?
Well, listen, I like LinkedIn. I have no objections to LinkedIn, but LinkedIn people there are basically doing cold calling. I get they call it networking, but the truth is it's digital cold calling. I don't know any of these people. I connect with them and then they try to sell to me. That is absolutely the wrong way to do it. And I mean, if you wanted to create a global business and you were in BNI, what it's very easy on our platform that I just talked about that we created. You could connect with somebody in another country. You could be in France and say, hey, I want to do business in the United States. And if you reached out on BNI Connect to people in New York and said, hey, I'm coming to New York, I would love to meet your chapter and talk about what I'm doing, and find out who I can help there. You could literally go to a meeting every day for a week and talk to hundreds of business people in person by setting it up online. You couldn't do that on LinkedIn. If I reached out to you on LinkedIn and said, hey, can I come see you? I want to do business in New York. You're like, who are you and why do you want to come here? But in BNI, because of the relationships that are built, they welcome people from other countries and other cities. So it's a much more relational process than other platforms.
Beautiful. Is it better for solopreneurs, small businesses, or better for big businesses, or do you have different tiers?
We have all of them, but if it's a big business, it's the salesperson. You don't get a CEO of a Fortune 500 company into BNI. What you get is the sales manager of a sales division, because it's all about building relationships to make sales. It's not a mastermind group, it's a referral organization. So we have major banks and insurance companies who are in BNI, but it's the agents, not the CEO, who's there. Now, sometimes people say, well, I want to do business with the CEO. They're hiding from you. You'll never be in a group with them because the groups they're in have requirements that you run a multi-million-dollar business. So what you want to do, it's not who you know that's important. It's who you know that they know. And so it's about building relationships with quality people because you never know who those people know. They have contacts that they could introduce you to, but first they've got to trust you. And so you start with people that are peers basically, and they can refer you up.
So I'm the salesperson of a bigger organization. I join BNI. I am committed to create value first. So I listen to others. What happens then? What are the mechanics that help me get this done?
So one of the things that you want to do is there's 2 or 3 things to be successful in BNI. One is that you have to have clarity in your message. And what happens is people don't know how to present what they do effectively. So what they do is they stand up and they just try to sell. Hey, I provide this product, I provide this service. And that's a mistake. Instead, what you want to do is you're not there to close a sale. You're there to train a sales force. You're there to teach people how to listen for referrals for you. So what you do is you go to the meetings and you teach people what a referral is for you. You teach people the kind of business that you do so that when they're out talking to people and they hear someone say something that clicks with them, they go, I know somebody that can provide that service. So we teach them to use what I call the language of referrals. When people say, I can't, I need, I want, I don't know, whatever they say next is a referral for somebody. And so what you want to do is teach people what a referral for you would be if someone said, I can't, I need, I want, I don't know. So you get that clarity. The other thing is one-to-ones. You got to sit down with people and build that relationship. And so we urge our members to do one-to-ones, again, not to sell to somebody, but to get to know that person better, know what they do better, and get them to know what you do better so that they can refer you effectively. Those 2 things are really critical in being successful in a BNI group.
How do you yourself network? One day in the life of Ivan Misner.
So, there are a number of things that I do. First of all, I'm very involved in charitable organizations, and oftentimes, I've sat on the board for a university, the board of trustees. I'm on the board of directors for a very large boys and girls club, and so you have a tendency in those kinds of organizations to meet other successful business professionals. Listen, those organizations, big organizations like that, have a minimum just to be on the board. You have to have a certain level of success to be on the board. And so I meet a lot of really successful people on the various boards I belong to. Also, I'm a member of an organization called the Transformational Leadership Council, which was created by Jack Canfield, who wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul and Success Principles. And so I network widely with organizations like that. So, you've got to constantly be building relationships with people. I don't think you ever reach a point where you say, oh, I have all the contacts I need. I don't need to network anymore.
Many clients ask us how to prepare for this teaching. So how to prepare a good joint venture or referral pitch. What is the good way to train others for referral?
So I think what people get caught up in doing is trying to figure out what their elevator pitch is. And frankly, an elevator pitch is just the beginning. And what happens is people think, well, if I do a good elevator pitch, I'll get a sale. Rarely. Will it happen? Yeah, about as often as a solar eclipse. Even a blind squirrel can stumble over a nut. You can stumble over business. But if you want referral business, you got to teach people how to refer you. So the foundation of everything I teach is a system called the VCP process. Visibility, credibility, profitability. First, you have to be visible. People have to know who you are and what you do. Then and only then can you get to credibility, where people know who you are, they know what you do, they know you're good at it. And once you get to credibility, then you can move to profitability, where people know who you are, they know what you do, they know you're good at it, and they're willing to give you referrals on an ongoing basis. That takes time. You're looking at 6 months, a year of building a relationship before that person's out there selling for you or referring you, and you're doing the same for them. We have this expectation that we go to a networking event and get business. And what you should be doing is go to a networking event to work your way through the VCP process, to meet people you've never met before, to create visibility, to enhance credibility with those that you know, and for those that you're already doing business with, to maintain that profitability, to maintain that relationship. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about that goes wrong. I did an event years ago in London, about 900 people. It was an all-day affair, and it was a lot of networking. I was the keynote speaker. And so I stood up and I said, how many of you are here today hoping to, maybe just possibly sell something? 900 people raised their hands. I said, great. How many of you are here today hoping to, maybe just possibly buy something? No one raised their hands. Not one single person. This is what I call the networking disconnect. Everyone shows up wanting to sell. Nobody's there to buy. And when people say networking doesn't work, it's because they're using networking as a face-to-face cold calling event. And that's not how to work your network effectively. Instead, it's about going through the VCP process.
Beautiful. Now we move to the segment of the show, which we call the Strategy Award. Whoop, whoop. You have the chance now to pick only one of the hundreds beautiful businesses that you see and pick them because they do things differently, but the right way. Who would that be?
Oh, I think right now I'm going to pick a company that's a small company that people wouldn't know of, but right now I think it's critical to pivot, to be able to pivot during something like the COVID virus. So I've got a business in BNI that is a furniture reupholstery company, furniture reupholstery. And, it's not exactly an essential business. So they had to close down when COVID hit. And they decided that, well, wait a minute, we have a lot of fabric. What we should do is start making COVID masks instead of reupholstering furniture. And so they made some sample masks, gave them to their fellow BNI members and said, give these to hospitals, give these to nurses, give these to doctors, give me feedback. They got feedback that it was fantastic. These masks were incredible. And so they went into the COVID manufacturing mask business instead of a furniture reupholstery. Now, they'll eventually go back to furniture reupholstery. But to me, that is such a great example about how a business could pivot and change what they do to make sure to keep everyone employed and for their company to stay open. To me, I just think businesses like that are amazing because they're looking for opportunities when everybody else is just hearing how bad things are and they're frozen in fear. These guys became focused by that fear.
Thank you. One or two books that inspire you currently?
Well, currently, let me give you the ones that I think would be a biggest benefit for business professionals. First of all, The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. If you're an entrepreneur, The E-Myth is a great book. It was a book I read when I started BNI. And he's revised the book, so it's up to date, but it really talks about how to work on the business and not in the business. I'd highly recommend The E-Myth for any particularly new entrepreneur. And another book would be The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John Maxwell. I know John, I now know Michael as well. And both of those books are great books for business people.
Who should be my next guest on the show?
Oh, well, that's a question I should ask you. Who do you want as your next guest? I mean, in terms of networking, who are you looking for as your next guest?
Yeah, I am asking myself this all the time, but now you have the chance to pick one.
Well, no, I'm asking you. I want to hear, so this is what networking is all about. I could tell you who I think, but what's more important is who you think. Because if you know somebody or you're thinking of a field of business that I have a contact, then I could refer you. So what kind of business are you looking for?
So the show is about giving CEO tips to small and medium company CEOs in the service business industry.
Yeah.
So who would be one person that comes to your mind
I
that
think
can
Michael Gerber
deliver
would,
a CEO tip to these people?
I think Michael Gerber would be a great guest on your show, because he would talk about many tips on how to create a company that you're working on and not just in.
Absolutely. Going back to your business,
Yeah.
what is now, if you look ahead, how much is ahead? Do you plan right now 3 months or 6 months during Corona times, or 5 years?
Well, we do 5-year plans, so we're 5 years ahead. Now, of course, something like COVID throws a monkey wrench into everything, and so we're now looking 6 months ahead at this point. And once we get through this period of time, then get back onto our 5-year strategy. A lot of people say things will never be the same. I disagree. I think things will normalize. It may take much longer than we thought. And we're gonna, we've gone from COVID into a recession, and we might have to go back into what I call the great pause or a lockdown. So the next 6 months are going to be challenging for most businesses, I believe. So I think, we take the 5-year plan and say, okay, we'll come back to that. And right now, what do we do for the next 6 months? And that's our strategy right now. We're looking at rolling out in-person meetings in areas where the virus is not growing. And when can we roll out to everybody? That's basically what we're looking for, is getting back to those in-person meetings.
Thank you so much, Ivan, for being here. And where can people find direct access to BNI and to you?
So you can go to bni.com if you want information on a BNI chapter near you. Although we're meeting online, we want them to be geographically near to the chapter. So bni.com. And of course, ivanmisner.com is my blog. And I have tons of free content up there. Would you like one more tip for CEOs?
Yeah.
I'll leave you with this. I think the biggest mistake I see with people who start their own business is they try to do 1,000 things 6 times. You want to be successful in business? Do 6 things 1,000 times, not 1,000 things 6 times. Find a handful of strategies that you can do over and over and over consistently over time. Don't be constantly chasing bright, shiny objects to find some secret method that you think will help you be incredibly successful. Instead, create systems and processes and do them over and over and over again. So I think the biggest mistake that entrepreneurs make is they're constantly chasing bright, shiny objects.
Thank you so much, Ivan, for being here. And
My pleasure.
Keep networking, keep doing the good stuff. Thank you so much.